All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Ariana Hall. Ariana, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
I'm so glad to be here. It's fun.
I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to this. I have been looking forward to this. You and I want to give a shout out to uh, Joshua B. Lee, because I'm trying to remember how I originally met Joshua. I've known him for a long time, and but he's the one that entered. I guess you were in some group, and then Adam. How do you pronounce Adam's last name?
Adam Gilad and
Gilad.
Joshua and I are in multiple groups together. We just keep bumping into each other everywhere, apparently. So we've become buddies, absolutely, as a result of that. Sometimes you just
Okay.
keep getting thrown in with someone in the best way.
And so yeah, you guys were having a conversation and stuff, and then they were like, "Oh, you need to talk with Kevin."
Yeah.
And so then Joshua connected us. You and I had a conversation a while back, and man, Ariana, I don't know how that felt for you, our first conversation, but for me, it felt like I'd known you for years already. And
Yeah,
so,
it did feel like that. It felt like a kindred spirit on the one hand. It felt like a relief on the other. I was like, okay, that here's someone who cares about substance, relationships, being a good human, actually taking the time to get to know people, slowing things down. He's not caught up in this, hustle culture. So yeah, it was really great to meet you. I'm really looking forward to this too.
me too. Me too. Well, we'll just dig right in here, and I'll ask a nice simple question. I don't know that it'll come with a nice simple answer. It might be but it's really simple for me to ask it. And we'll start there, and then we'll
Let's see
dig
what happens.
deeper. But we'll just start. Ariana, what do you do, and who do you serve? And we'll get into the backstory and how you got here later. But we'll just start right there.
Well, I believe that you don't have to lose your sanity, your health, and your relationships in order to be successful.
Amen.
And I've believed that for a while. I've had my own trouble in that area. So
Okay.
I've had experiential learning in that area. And eventually I got to the point where I realized that the best use of my gifts and talents would be to be a CEO coach. So I am an executive coach for CEO founders.
Okay. Okay. So how did you get into doing this kind of, I think back to when I was a kid that I wanted to be a fireman, and I never did become a fireman, but at the same time, I would have never imagined that I'd be doing what I get to do now, and yet I wouldn't trade this for nothing.
I'm sure putting out lots of fires, Kevin. So, well, the way I got here was a very, very, very unexpected route.
Okay.
People are consistently surprised when I tell them my story of how I got here. So, in a very tight little nutshell, and tell me which part of it you'd like to expand. I was I went to an art school when I was a kid. I studied the performing arts, theater, music. And I was a songwriter, and then I went to a conservatory program in college. I became very masterful in my studies of music, reading and writing music, performing and singing music, writing for big bands, writing for jazz choirs, singing all kinds of styles, making all kinds of recordings, winning various awards. And then I got picked up for a world tour. And by the time I had done the world tour, along with all the other music I'd done, I counted up one day that I had sung for 1 million audience members in my professional singing career, and
Wow.
including backing up Rod Stewart, backing up an American Idol, Adam Lambert, backing up a whole bunch of other people, Engelbert Humperdinck, if you know who that one
I
is,
do. I
from years
do.
ago. I've
Yep.
been on 4 major label releases as a backup singer. I've written and released several of my own EPs, which are like shorter albums,
Uh-huh.
as a singer-songwriter with my original music. There is one actually on Spotify under my name, Ariana Hall. So I've done a lot with music.
Wow.
And one day, I realized I needed to quit my touring job because I was feeling really unhappy on it. And I got to the point where I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I assumed it would be something related to music. So I was teaching singing lessons and quit my touring job and was just holding still, thinking about it for a little while. And one day, between students, I was just standing at the piano and I looked down and I realized that something that had come to me years before had come true. Now, I'm going to go back to what that was. Um, I was in the emergency room of a hospital in Laughlin, Nevada, There were bars on the window of the hospital, just to give you a feeling for this hospital. And I had gone there in an emergency situation because I was vomiting, and it turned out I had a kidney infection, which was a result of lots of touring and dehydration. We had gone to Hong Kong and back in just a few days, just a lot of travel. And I was a 24 or so year old kid who didn't know to drink enough water at the time. And so there I am dealing with this. And they said, "Are you allergic to any antibiotics?" And I said, or they said, "Are you allergic to morphine?" And I said, "Not that I know of." Next thing you know, I woke up and an entire day of my life had gone by. They had put me on morphine without explaining this to me. And I didn't have a chance to notify anyone on the tour that I was on, which had a show that night. Oh, wow. So as far as they were concerned, I just didn't show up. And I thought for sure, I've lost my touring job. I was really overwhelmed in this moment. And I got a phone call from a boyfriend I had at the time. He broke up on the phone, and it was just a really low point for me at 24. And I looked out of the window with the little bars on the window, and I thought, this has got to be the lowest point in a while. I really have to think about what happened here. And I had the experience of reaching deep within myself to try to figure out where I had miscalculated, where I had gone wrong, because I didn't like this touring job anymore. And there were a lot of things that felt like they were out of sorts in my life. And I heard a voice in my head. I don't know where I heard it from. It was very clear, and it said, "You are here to empower the voices of others." And it scared me a little bit because I didn't know what it meant. And as a professional singer, I definitely did not want to be empowering my competition's voices. That's what I interpreted it to mean. I later learned there's a phenomenon called clairaudience, which is similar to clairvoyance. It's instead of seeing a vision ahead of time, you hear something. Okay. So I heard this voice. And it was, like I said, it was a little weird, a little woo-woo. It didn't really make any sense to me at the time. So now fast forward to I'm standing at this piano. Now I'm like 26, 27, and I'm waiting for another voice student to come in while I'm trying to figure out what to do with myself. And I realized, oh my God, I'm empowering the voices of others. Now that might seem small, but I realized that if I were to just put my back into it, so to speak, if I were just to really get focused on this and make this a thing, this could become a big deal. Because I know that when I get really committed to something, it really happens. Yeah. So I thought, all right, let's just see. And on the very next voice lesson, it wasn't a voice lesson. It was a voice activation. I didn't have language for it at the time, but I was getting underneath what was underneath the voice problems, not just working with them technically only, and started really expanding people's sense of themselves, not just their voice, their self-expression. And then that continued, and I started bringing together a whole vocabulary, really like an internal almanac of how self-expression works and how it shows up in different people, including their cultural background, including their gender, including their age, their generation, their unique quirks, what's special about them, what's not unique about them that appeals to others, all the different pieces, the components almost that make up self-expression. And from there, I was able to kind of hone work, like a work of my own. And it was built on a lot of different things I learned from others, of course. And then I developed my own unique pieces. So from those days teaching voice lessons in my 20s, I then started to work as a public speaking coach. And that was starting more in my 30s. And that picked up a lot of steam. So now all my clients were CEO founders who were getting businesses off the ground or who had businesses off the ground and needed to speak well about them in front of audiences. And I was getting to know these people. And, they would say, "Hey, I know I'm here for public speaking, but you're a woman. Can you help me with this dating problem? You're a woman. Can you help me with my wife? I don't understand what's going on with me and my kid. This person I'm managing keeps crying every time I ask them for something. I don't know what's going on. Can you help me?" And just one thing after another, I had an instinct about where to go with these things. And I kept getting these people results, to my surprise as well. Now, meanwhile, I'm still trying to be a professional singer. These people keep finding me and hiring me for all these things. And I'm like, actually, I'm just a singer, but I'll help you with these things. So this career kept chasing me. It was almost like a weird haunting that I just trying to do this, but this other thing's following me. And eventually I turned toward it and just said, okay, I guess this is supposed to be my career. I was still singing, but now I was giving it a lot more of my attention. And I realized one day I had amassed enough material that this was no longer public speaking. it certainly wasn't a voice lesson anymore at all. And then I just started referring to it as executive coaching. Now, the way I do executive coaching is not strictly business coaching. That's what a lot of executive coaches do. There's different kinds of executive coaches. A coach who is an executive coach is just working with an executive. What I'm really specializing in is their emotional intelligence development, how they navigate themselves, how they navigate their communication with others, all of their relationships, especially their primary relationships, perhaps with a spouse, their kids, their business partner, any key relationships like the operator of their business, if there is one, things like that. People are very important to them. And how they navigate those relationships usually takes some finesse when they're operating at a pretty high level. Typically, clients have been, these days I would say most of my clients are, 8 and 9 figure business owners. But some of them, sometimes they're 10-figure. I have one right now who's running $1 billion company. I've had in the past also another who's running $1 billion company. It ranges a lot. When someone's running $1 billion company, what they're concerned with and what happens in their relationships has a huge impact. And so it really has to be right the very first time. So I'm very excited to say that I'm pretty good at that. So catalyzing people, harmonizing vibration is sort of my orientation to people, just between us and everyone watching this. But really people, what people know me for is helping other people kind of get what they want and make sure their life is in alignment, that the pieces on the inside of them and the pieces on the outside of them line up. And as I like to say, it's like the inside and the outside of you are high-fiving.
Yeah, I love that. What an awesome analogy that is. The inside and the outside of you are high-fiving.
Yeah, it's much harder to do than it would sound.
Yeah.
But with my early, break in relationship with myself when I was touring and unhappy with it, and I had built myself into this, career that I didn't love, and I was miserable, and I was honestly depressed at one point, even though I was really good at it. There was just something about the way it was happening that really didn't work for me, and I felt stuck there. And I've had a lot of clients over the years come because they feel stuck in some way. From the outside, it looks like they've got it all, but there's something really stuck, either in their relationship or maybe they don't even want that kind of business anymore, but they're kind of stuck running it in a way. They feel stuck running it. Or they're stuck some other way. They can't manage to find more, a deeper meaning, or maybe they're ready to have a larger impact and leave a legacy, but they don't even know where to begin. And they're just used to busying themselves. Like there's a lot of ways it can show up, or they're embroiled in stuff with their kids and they're just like losing connection with their spouse. There's so many ways it can show up. They're going to lose connection with themselves.
I'm really glad I asked you that question because what a awesome story and then backstory about the transformation that you went through, because you sharing that, it's like, wow, that totally makes sense. One thing led to the next and you were kind of just like getting to this place in your music. So I'm curious, are you musically inclined still? Do you still do music too? I would imagine, because it's just,
I am. I'll serenade you if you want.
Yeah. You know what? I might have to.
I always tell my closest friends, I said, just if you're having a tough time sleeping and it's some reasonable hour, call me and I'll sing you to sleep.
There you go.
My husband gets the benefit of it. He gets sung to sleep, if he wants it,
Yep.
So yeah, I'll sing you something if you want.
Well, so let me ask you this. What inspires you most about the work that you get to do and the impact you get to have, Ariana?
Well, I know that you and I talked about impact when we talked earlier, and that we both care about that. I think it's becoming more of a buzzword. I think people say that and don't know what it means. I know that is really important. I believe that you know what it means. It's important to me as well. It means that a person, for the sake of like putting the flag in the ground, to me, impact is understanding the effect you have on another, or many others, and being responsible for that. And that's not something a lot of people pay attention to, as far as I can tell. So I became very passionate at the idea that music in my former career could hugely impact the emotional state, psychological state, and other states, I would even say physical state of an audience member. I was noticing my singing not just my singing, anyone's singing, if it was done well and done artfully and done with passion and done with connection to themselves, could absolutely affect the state of thousands of people watching.
Yeah.
And I would do that night after night, right? The average audience when I was touring was 2,500. So I realized at some point that effect, while very powerful, is short-lived. The truth is that people go home after a great concert, hopefully it was good, and within 24 hours or less, they've forgotten about it, or it's the feeling has left them to some degree, with some exceptions, but very few exceptions. So I thought, God, there's got to be a better way. I'm sure there's a way. Now that I understand this, and I have a passion for it, and I have skills, like I know how to create emotional impact, and there's certain skills I've developed that a lot of business owners don't have, just because they haven't had to develop them. But as an artist, you do have to develop these things, so or you don't have a career. So I figured out at one point, okay, what if I took all the things I know and I gave it to the person who is in position to make the biggest impact imaginable? Who would that be? And I thought about it a long time. I'm going to argue it took me 10 years to figure out exactly what it is that I'm here doing right now with great intensity and great care.
I can totally relate to that, Ariana.
I believe you. And for me, if I had to put it into a sentence, it's giving the tools that I just described that I picked up in a former career and out of my own creative, development and passion, which took decades, honestly. Took 20,000 hours to develop, to just find a way to mainline that into a CEO who has to make a big impact because of their job. They're affecting hundreds of people, in some cases thousands, and they need to be effective, but they need to do it in a way that actually works, because I think a modern CEO understands that you cannot just wing it and hope it's going to happen anymore. You have to have a really meaningful and aligned messaging that works with what the company actually is, that works with what the culture is, that works with who your hires are, that works with the way things are set up. All that stuff has to line up. It's not like the days of old where, you could just kind of phone it in and be removed from the crowd. You can't do that anymore. You've got to be in the crowd. You've got to be understanding what people need, assuming that you are, CEOing a business with lots of people in it.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where I realized the only way that makes sense here is if these CEOs understand how to impact powerfully and well, and that they're doing so from a place of alignment with themselves. Otherwise, it's just going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Which is usually the state it's in when I start with them. They don't necessarily think so. They're like, look at the revenues. And I'm like, oh my God, let's talk about this.
Revenues look great. Everything's good.
Doesn't this look great on the outside? But you are falling apart. Let's talk about this. Why is that? Something's misaligned.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so what's a result? And you don't have to name names here or anything, but what's a result that you've helped a client get that you're just incredibly proud of, Ariana?
Right off the top of my head would be something that's actually, I have permission to say it. It's on my website. Craig Clemens, co-founder of Golden Hippo, billion-dollar company, very successful guy. He came to me when he was not, as successful as he is today. And he was a single guy, and, he was interested in just, being a more interesting guy, better at dating, like single people care about, like better at, a few other things in his world. And one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. And at a certain point, he became a really powerful man. And he attracted an incredible partner, Sarah, who he's married to now. They have a kid. They have, last I checked, dogs. And when he and I were working together, he wanted to do the works. We started at the beginning and we just transformed every key part of his life, like really every key part of his life. He was an incredible client to work with. I think our work was 5.5 years total, if I remember correctly. And we just did everything. We did everything there was to do. And then he was like naturally done. And we had a little kind of goodbye, ceremonious goodbye session that was beautiful. And I remember him telling me, when my kids are born, I'm going to tell them that there's someone named Ariana that exists, and if it weren't for her, you wouldn't exist. So it was a very beautiful thing for him to say, and I'm very proud of all of his success. He's a really stand-up guy. Another one is Francis Wolf, Digistore 24, another billion-dollar company. I'm working with him now. We've been working together, I think, like 2.5 years. He's had all kinds of success in the last few years, so it's very, very gratifying to see that these so-called soft skills matter so much to very successful people, even if they don't realize it. But once I get in there, if they're open, and if they are, willing, major things happen. It's very exciting to watch.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, okay. So now that we've got some context set here, people have a little bit of an idea of who you are and what you're all about. I want to switch gears just a little bit. I want to start talking about the relationship side of all this. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or multiple persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships, Ariana.
There's so many of them. There's so many. I would say anyone who's successful in any area has to have quite a few. So this is why it's such a great idea. Your podcast is such a great idea. Checking in about people's key relationships, and what got them to where they are. So for me, I would say the very first one was, it's going to sound silly, but a violin teacher when I was 3 years old. Yes, 3 years old. When I was 3, I went up to my mom and I said, I want to take violin lessons. And she said, you're 3, you don't know what a violin is. I said, yes, I do. It's the one that goes like this. And she was like, oh my God, okay, we're getting you violin lessons. So I got a violin teacher, this woman, Mrs. McClung. There's no way she could still be alive at this point. I would be shocked, but it's been decades. She was teaching at the college in my hometown, and she was a very accomplished older violin teacher, and she taught me the Suzuki method. And it was when I learned how to take all of what I was hearing and make sense of vibration. And she made a huge impact on me. I think the biggest impact she made, in addition to her kindness and her patience, with a very precocious 3-year-old who wanted to master the violin, which I didn't ever master. But she said to my mom something one day that really changed a lot, which was, she said, has Ariana been practicing her violin? And she said, she's just daydreaming a lot. She's just daydreaming all the time. And Mrs. McClung said, daydreaming is a sign of genius. And the room stopped. And my mom was like, what? And she said, yeah, never interrupt her. She's daydreaming. And I was like, what? So now fast forward to, I have had a professional artist career. I've done a lot of daydreaming, and in a great way, to great effect. Because that's when, as I understand it now, kind of like different parts of your brain get activated and your creativity can come through a little differently, and your unconscious mind can get involved, and it's a beautiful thing. But way back when, my violin teacher having that intervention with my mom and saying, don't you dare interrupt her daydreaming, actually led my mom to becoming very open and curious at what it could look like for her daughter to actually become very, very creative. And then I would say the next person along the line was when I was about 11, I had a teacher who came to my mom and said, your daughter's really into singing. And my mom said, I know, she sings all the time. And she said, no, I'm saying she's got a lot of talent. You might want to help her get it developed. And my mom was like, oh, wow. Okay. Next thing you know, my mom was looking at an art school. And then I auditioned for and got into this art school. So I was really lucky that my mom cared about these things and she was available to hear all these things. I feel very lucky for that. And then I got world-class training at the art school. There were so many amazing teachers, so many of them. I can't even name them all, honestly. They were just so many amazing teachers at the Palm Beach County School of the Arts, which is now called Dreyfus in South Florida. And then after that, I went to college, and I had one teacher that really stood out to me, Rachel LeBon, who was teaching at the University of Miami at the time where I went to college. And she had toured as a singer. She had done a lot as a professional singer. And she was older at the time when I was going there. And she was a professor now. And she was heading up, the singing department within the department I was in, the singing aspect of it. And the very first time I was ever in her class, walked into the class, sat down in my seat. I looked around. There was only about 7 or 8 people in this class. I found out later they only accepted a very small number of people each year to go to this conservatory program. Felt lucky to be there and on scholarship and everything. And she started the class by saying, "Who here would like to sing a song?" This is how she started the class, the very first class,
That's
freshman
so
year.
awesome.
She's like, you're singers?
You got the floor.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone was silent.
Nobody's like, I don't want to be the one that gets up there in front of everyone.
I said,
You're like, I want
I'll
to sing
a song. And so she's like, great, come on up here. And I was nervous, but I did it. And I sang a song off the top of my head. I just sang a song in front of the room. And she said, thank you so much. And I sat down. And then she looked at the class and she said, if you want to call yourself a singer, you need to be able to sing anytime, anywhere, in front of anyone. And I was like, dang, okay, this is like setting the tone. So yeah. Rachel LeBon really made a huge impression on me in that regard. Another woman I studied with, Mary Scheibe, taught me how to use my voice correctly, classically training me, different than what Rachel was teaching me through pop styles. She taught me how to, if I so chose, I could have probably gone on to be an opera singer or, singing something else in the classical world. I chose not to go that way, but I'm very grateful for her teaching me that because I was able to have a baseline understanding of technique that was solid. And then I could apply it to pop styles, which can actually be really hard on your voice. So I got all of that under my belt. Here I was waiting to see what my next job would be. And I get a call from someone who said, hey, I'm the music director for Engelbert Humperdinck. I'd love to pick you up for a world tour. I thought it was a prank call. Wow. I waited a few days. I wasn't sure if it was real. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to call. I called back. He said, oh yeah, this is real. And we're leaving in 6 days. Do you know who you want to be the other backup singer? And I was like, oh my gosh. So my best friend was also studying singing at the time. I gave her the other job and we went on tour. I would attribute that to Larry Lappin, who was the head of the jazz vocal music department at University of Miami, who referred me to this person. And also the head of the music union at the time, Peter, his last name's escaping me, also referred me. And so the guy was like, I don't know who you are, but everyone I talk to says it's you. I'm like, great. So I got to go on a world tour for 2.5 years. Wow. We did about 250 shows a year. Wow. I was very involved. So after that, I would say the next major person along my path was someone who's no longer with us. And her name was Lise Maria. And she was a very controversial, I would call her a spiritual teacher, if I had to give her a title. For 1.5 years, I went to her little apartment in Santa Monica, California, and would receive her incredible gift. I never missed a week for 1.5 years. And every single week, I would sit there and I would start working with her and using this very specific tool that she eventually taught me. I'm one of only a few people that know it. And I would cry. I would cry almost every single week. From Lise Maria, I learned who I really am. I learned that there are different parts of myself and how they connect with each other in a way that was so sublime and so deep and so much more far-reaching than what therapy can do and what, other styles of working with people can do. She really went right to the core. So I really feel like I touched my essence through her guidance, and I'm forever grateful to her. And then moving on from there, I had a wonderful, wonderful mentor named Joel, who worked with me for about a decade and gave me so many wonderful nuggets and understandings of humans and how we think and how we operate, from our emotions to our psyches to our personalities, kind of the way things operate, the way people operate. And from Joel, I learned how to reach, I would call it full womanhood and great savvy. After my time with Joel, I learned how to handle myself in any situation. So I'm very grateful for that from him. And it gives me great poise. So it's powerful to have, a training that helped me understand mechanics of vibration, to a person who helped me understand kind of like how to protect my creative sanctum. Another person who showed me how to understand my essence and the ways it shows up through the various layers of my being. And then another person who helped me understand how to take all that and protect it and move through the world powerfully. So I'd say those were off the top of my, so many amazing teachers. I mean, there's another one I'm thinking of now. I'm skipping so many. There were so many amazing teachers through my life. Mrs. Sparks, another one, that was a high school teacher. She was in art school, showed me in 1 year flat how to go from really not knowing anything about how to read and write music to reading and writing music at a basic level and singing in a basically correct way, enough that I was able to get into that conservatory program and have my career take off from there. So, so many incredible people. At this point, I would say that the people that influence me the most are some peers and some others that I've known from, say, my 30s on to now. And I'm in my late 40s. And I've had so many incredible people who have helped me understand, like, hey, you should really think about what your standards are for this, this, and this. Oh my gosh, I don't have any standards in that area. Thank you for helping me know I should have standards in that area. And, other people who have come through and just, maybe they just said a little thing here and there and helped me really like rethink how I think about relationships, or how I think about community, or how I think about my relationship with time, or how I think about my relationship with being a service provider, how I think about impact, so many different things. And then actual clients I've had over the years who have shared their beautiful lives with me, been very vulnerable. I've heard it all. I really have heard it all in 27 years of working with people. I've heard it all. I've seen so much. And in those situations and in those quiet, in those closed door rooms, so to speak, people have really shared incredible things that have enhanced my life and helped me learn through their lives, as I've learned, as they've obviously learned through my support. So there's been a lot I've learned from my clients over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in a
Wow.
web of relationships. There's no
Yeah,
way around
for
it.
sure. For
We're tribal
sure.
creatures.
And one thing I just want to acknowledge, there is no hiding your just appreciation for each one of the people that you've talked about, and each one of them had a profound impact on your life and on your business and the work that you're doing, and just the every step of the way. These people were just having such an impact on your life, and your business now too. And people look at the, like, well, you made a comment about the time that it took you to, like, I don't know how you like get things for you. I will say, for me, it did take some time. It took some time to get to where we're at today. And I had to definitely go through some personal growth, and there was some very challenging times, and you know what? And I wouldn't trade none of it, because it's what got us here.
Mhm.
And you know what? There will be more, to for us to experience too, because that's just how growth works, and God forbid we stop growing. And
Yes,
so,
so true. And hopefully more wonderful teachers along the way. And teachers can be
yeah,
younger than us. They don't have to always be older or even the same
totally.
age. Like, I have been blessed with so many wonderful teachers. I would not be the person that I am and help these leaders at the level I'm helping them at if I hadn't been touched by each of those people along my path.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't care about those details and they just want the result sometimes, and that's totally fine. But I know where it came from. I know the source of my power is from all of that learning and from my integration of those things. I had one person who said to me once, "You make your teachers proud." And I loved that saying. And I said, "Where did you hear that?" That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And he said, I understand that it's a Native American expression, that's how apparently, I wish I knew which Native American tribe or tribes would say if someone appeared, really successful or really potent or really talented or anything, really even very attractive perhaps. It's like you make your teachers proud. Whoever showed you how to do that, you're making them proud. So I think that's a beautiful way to think of it, where we're not here, just because of sheer willpower. That can just be ugly, actually, after a little while. There's only so far an ego can take itself. We're in a web, guidance is necessary.
Yeah.
I just actually forgot one other really, really beautiful teacher, Dawn, who was she is an expert in human intimacy, Dawn Cartwright, and she is still alive and teaching and a beautiful human being. From her, I really was able to kind of close the gaps on some of my learning in the area of human intimacy. And that's why I do consider myself an expert in human intimacy. I've coached a lot of couples through, all kinds of issues, not to mention individuals through all kinds of issues. And so I really am grateful to Dawn for the way she's loved me through that process. Every one of those teachers kind of loved me in a special way, so to speak, that they did their teaching in an appropriate manner that left a beautiful mark on me. And so I want to acknowledge Dawn as well. She was incredible.
That's awesome. Well, for anybody who might be listening to this and just kind of thinking to themselves, man, Kevin, I really love Ariana. I love who she is. I love how she shows up. And maybe some of the things that you've shared have got them thinking like, man, you know what? It might be worth having a conversation with her. She might be able to help me out. Or, I want to share this with a friend of mine because I got a friend of mine that I really care about that I want to let know about Ariana and stuff. So, any website, any resources we could share with folks that might want to follow up?
Yeah. It's just arianahall.com. So I
Okay.
spell my first name with one R and one N. So Ariana,
Okay.
hall.com. That would be the easiest way to find out more. There's a form on that page. And also they can email support@arianahall.com if they want to just email direct. Also LinkedIn. I post on LinkedIn pretty regularly. So if someone DMs me through LinkedIn, I'm likely to learn about them and get to know them that way as well. I do have Instagram and Facebook, but I'm not as active on those. So if that's if that's something somebody wants to use, they can. There might be a delay, but those are there. I would say that's probably the easiest.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, I'll make sure to include the link to Ariana's website and her LinkedIn profile down below. So just scroll down and you'll find it right down there. Um, Ariana, is there any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
I just appreciate you. Thanks for having a podcast where you're asking people such a potent and important question. I think I know from my line of work that I give a lot and am often not glorified in what I give, because I'm the behind the scenes person that helped the superstar get there. And I love that. I mean, I'm fine with it. I've been the superstar in my former career. I understand what it's all about, and it's a lot of pressure. And I also really enjoy being the supporter to the superstar. It's a favorite and easy place for me to be. I really understand where they need to be. I've been there, and I also know how to support it. So I think what I would add is just that it's great that you're highlighting people that deserve to be highlighted because they've helped others. So I just appreciate that you're doing that.
Well, I'll tell you, it is. You're so welcome, and I get just so much joy and satisfaction from I love talking with entrepreneurs who are making such a big impact, and and so I mean, hosting this podcast has definitely been the most rewarding and impactful thing that I've done in my 33 years as an entrepreneur, and so yeah, I will continue on with this.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
well, thanks so much. I'm really excited to get this out there. I'm just really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today, Ariana. And yeah, I'm excited to get this out and share it with folks. So thanks so much.
Thank you.